My name is Dan Fatton. I'm the director of the Work Environment Council. We go by WEC because it's quite a mouthful. I'd encourage you to check out our website, njwec.org. Like many of you, I've been pretty distraught the last few days. Personally, I'm married to a Brazilian immigrant. Organizationally, our group is funded by, it's a third of our budget from OSHA. And frankly, just out of fear for humanity. So I want to talk about environmental policy, and I think there are grave implications of this election. It's especially when we think about an urgent crisis like climate change. Many of you have likely seen the news that Trump has appointed Myron Ebel to be his environmental policy person on the transition team. This is a climate denier who works for the Competitive Enterprise Institute. He's a prominent climate change skeptic who calls it a hoax, but conveniently gets funded by energy companies. During the campaign, Trump talked about dismantling the EPA. Then he toned it down and said he would just get rid of 70 or 80% of the regulations. The truth is, it's a little unclear what can be done, but frankly, the direction is horrifying, scary, overwhelming. I think now more than ever, we have to listen to what we heard earlier. We need to organize, we need to stand up, we need to work together to make sure two things happen. One, we prevent rollback on the federal level. Two, we get progressive environmental policy on a state-based level here in New Jersey, which is a progressive state. Most likely the Clean Power Plan, which was Obama's program to make the energy sector more climate friendly, is dead. DC Circuit Court still needs to rule, but once that ruling comes out, it's very likely we're not going to get that policy. It's possible we'll see a rollback on the CAFE standard. These are the regulations that car companies have to follow in terms of the mileage, the fuel efficiency. One of the more frustrating pieces of news that I saw last week was that GM and Ford actually wrote a letter to the Trump transition team asking them to roll back those regulations, those standards. And which is ironic considering we bailed them out, right? But there's a few things we can do there. One is, again, we need to stand up, we need to contact our legislators, we need to contact our Senate representatives and our general representatives, asking them to stand strong. And two, we have personal ability to buy more fuel-efficient cars. I drive a hybrid, and everyone else here needs to start thinking about their next car. You know, if the federal government rolls back the standards, we still have purchasing power. And two, or three, on the state level, we can exceed the federal standard. So California has taken this approach, right, where the federal government says all cars by 2020 need to have 40 miles per gallon or whatever the number is, and California exceeds that standard. And it drove the conversation, it drives the market. We can change the behavior of car companies by setting state policy standards. And so in New Jersey, when we get a new governor and we have an ability to make more progressive change on environmental policy, that's one option. Change fuel mileage, economy standards in the state of New Jersey. In terms of climate and the dismantling of clean air and water regulations, Trump spoke out of both sides of his mouth on this one, right? So he expressed support for clean air and clean water in September. One option for us, if he doesn't stand by that, is lawsuits, and we're going to need environmental groups and public health organizations to sue. We need them to, exactly, thank you. Those strategies are lengthy and they're risky, especially if they end up at a divided Supreme Court or a newly stacked Supreme Court. So the one other option here, we can take note from what happened during the Bush administration with the arsenic rule. People got outraged and they wrote into Congress basically saying, do not change our standards for clean water and allow more arsenic in our water. And they rescinded the rule. They saw the political writing on the wall and they changed their tactic. So we need to take that into heart when they inevitably start attacking our protections and our regulations. I think it goes without saying that he's surrounded himself by pretty disturbing figures. Myron Ebel is only one of many. It's ironic to drain the swamp by appointing people like Harold Hamm, the CEO of Continental Resources, or Mike McKenna, an energy lobbyist from the American Energy Alliance. We don't really know what's going to happen with the appointees, but we should be signing petitions and fighting back on these people who are not going to stand up for progressive principles and for policies that help all people. Just one last point, when we're talking about state policy on climate change, the Paris Accord, it's very possible, Trump has indicated, and the transition people who are around him want to pull us out of the Paris Accord. It's a lengthy process, so there are legal ramifications to pulling out, and a lot of what I've read shows that it would take several years to actually complete that process. We have time, thankfully, and in the meantime, we need to organize and we need to march. We need to show up. We need to go testify. We need to make calls to legislators. We have to stand up for climate policy. Last statement is just, I know this is a little downer, it's a little doom and gloom. Environmental policy outlook is not that great right now, which means it's all the more important in New Jersey we stand up for good things. WEC is working with 32BJ, with Working Families Alliance, with Environment New Jersey, with many other groups to come up with a suite of policies that the state could pursue with a new governor that would put us back in a leadership role on clean energy, on energy efficiency, on environmental justice. So please, if you're interested, see me at the end or check out our website. We need a broad-based movement to stand up and say we want powerful, good policy that's going to address the climate change potential catastrophe that we face, and it's not going to come from the federal government. So thank you for listening.